Hi, I'm John Knopf. How are you today? Welcome. I've never done this before, so I'm going to be pretty nervous. I'm going to find like a face in the audience to be comfortable with. You're smiling. Perfect. All right, so I got into this place as a photographer about 15 years ago, but that wasn't NFTs, that was photography. And that's where I started to learn to create a market and a community. My experience with that was when I first got into photography, gallerists, curators, nobody wanted to take photography. They weren't considering it as art. They told me that my work would sell for like $400 or $500. It just wasn't worth anything. It really just it was hard, at first. And I remember looking back on that and thinking, well, how can I create a market for my work? How can I, develop a community? And there was no Instagram. There was no like real following for photography on Twitter or Facebook. It was kind of a real small community. And so I remember kind of just being on my own, and it was really competitive. And so about 5 years into it, I decided that I was just going to live out of my car and open my own gallery because there was no galleries willing to take my work. And I moved to Las Vegas and basically like lived out of casino parking lots. And I'm basically just going to share my story, and hopefully like you learn something from this. So when I'm sleeping in casino parking lots, thinking about how I'm going to create a market, I started going out to shows and doing music photography because that was really the only way to meet people. And I figured if I did that, eventually I would meet the right person and get a gallery. And that probably was the stupidest idea ever, but eventually it worked. So the more and more I shot, I met a headliner and I started working for him. And I started shooting photography and doing all the shows that I could. And he asked me, what do you want to get paid? And I said, absolutely nothing. I want you to network me out to everybody. And I know this is like the opposite of what we get taught. It's like, don't work for free. But at the time, I had never shot people. I was shooting landscapes. That was my thing, was outdoor photography. So I wanted to work for free in the idea that he could network me out. And eventually, my idea was to open my gallery. I didn't want to be a musician's photographer. I wanted to have my own thing. So one night, I'm at dinner with him, and I meet the CEO of the Stratosphere, and it's one of the casinos out there, and he offers me a gallery space. And obviously, this is like my opportunity to take advantage of this, and he offers it at percentage-based rate. So I opened my gallery, and 6 months into it, I'm into this whole, like, if you build it, they will come. Nobody came, and there was no sales happening. But I kept persevering. I wasn't just going to stop, because, at this point, I already realized that I was doing this for the passion. I wasn't doing this at any point for the money. I never got into photography or art so that I could make money out of it. I did it because I enjoyed it and I hated working. I didn't fit into the mold of just working a 9 to 5. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to see everything, and I was young at the time and could pretty much do whatever I wanted. So I'm gonna drink. All right, so I'm traveling, doing everything, trying to make this work, and I realized that with photography, there really is just no marketplace. There's like one guy who's killing it and making a ton of money, and everybody else is kind of like trying to just get bits. We're trying to get sponsorships on Instagram, trying to survive. And I realized that there was just no way that I was going to make it. So I continued to just open, openings, tried to put my work in galleries, and it wasn't until I found the NFT space that I realized that this was a whole new venue, like a whole new avenue of how we could create a marketplace for photography. So when I got into it, there was absolutely no photography minted. I think there was like maybe 5 or 10 photographers in the space, but they had not minted really like static photography. We were all arguing on Clubhouse, like, should we animate our art? Should we make it 3D? Like, what should we do with it? And nobody knew what to do. So I remember kind of like thinking, well, this is like how I came into the space 15 years ago, and there was no market for photography then. So I figured, why not just mint my work and just go in head first? So I put up my work on the blockchain, and I put it up, I think, originally for like 5 or 10 ETH. And the reason I did this, and I've worked really hard for my photography. I've traveled all over the world. I've suffered. I've climbed mountains. I've spent weeks backpacking. So I wasn't just going to let my work go for cheap. I wanted to, if I was going to sell something, I didn't want to regret the sale just because I was trying to make money. That wasn't worth it for me. I'd rather just live out of my car at that point. So I put up my work for what I thought it was worth. It took months to sell it. I saw other people starting to slowly make sales as they entered the space. Some photographers, there wasn't a lot. There was like maybe, 20 now. We're kind of like increasing throughout the months, but I wasn't getting any sales. And I just kind of kept elevating photographers because in the beginning, I kind of had to like analyze my intention. Why am I here? What am I doing in this space? Is it to make sales? Is it to make money? Is it to get a following? Is it to get collectors? And at first, I thought this would be a great way to make money. I mean, we've never really made money as photographers. And as most artists, there's nothing wrong with coming into something and going, I want to make a cash grab. I want to make money. But in the first couple of weeks, I started to realize that there was something so much more important with this blockchain. There was a technology that was going to take us to the future generation of how to make wealth as an artist. So I started working with other photographers that were in the space and started realizing there was, tons of other people that did what I did, which was landscapes. And that really, that made me happy, actually finding a community that there was other people doing what I did. I thought that it was just a bunch of old guys out there, and when I first got in, that's what it was, just a bunch of old dudes out there with canes, trying to find a mountain. And so I found a bunch of friends, and it was okay, so there's something to this. So a couple months into it, I realized if we started elevating each other and really working together, we could create an entire community. So I formed, a Telegram. I started getting my other friends in it. We started kind of chatting. And it wasn't until I came last year to NFT.NYC that I realized that we really didn't have a place yet in NFTs. We had, one panel, and it was for 15 minutes, and that was pretty much it. No one really recognized us. And there was actually a bunch of Nat Geo photographers in the audience who came up to us after and was well, what is this space? What are you guys doing here? And so we explained it, and we realized there's so much more to this, and there's so much opportunity. So when I came here this year, I decided last year that I was going to make sure that we had a place to show all of our photography, because there was no photography exhibits last year. So I got together with Time Magazine, and I created a company with my friend Farouk called Rug Radio. And Rug Radio was so that we could highlight other artists and we could elevate voices. And the idea is that there are so many people in the space that just aren't heard. And Farouk and I had an audience that we could give them. And so with photography, it really played in so well because it's been, as my friend Keith says, not undervalued, but just not monetized correctly. And I look at that and I think, well, how can we do this in a much grander scheme? So I rented out Super Chief with Rug Radio and Time Magazine, and we put 250 photographers in the gallery yesterday. And there was over maybe 4,000 people that showed up and walked through the gallery. I saw photographers crying. I saw photographers taking pictures next to their photos, tweeting about that this, this was the first gallery showing they'd ever had. Sorry, I've been partying all night, guys. Sorry, I was at Bobby Hundreds. I don't know about you guys, but NFT.NYC is insane. So we threw this crazy event. Everybody was there. It was just unbelievable to see all these photographers and just really, it was everything that I had been working for over the last year and a half all came to fruition in one day. And if you go to Twitter and you see, go to my page, John Knopf Photos, you'll see all these photographers just elevating their work, talking about people made sales, and how do you create a market? How do you create a community? You have conviction in what you believe in. So if you believe in something full-heartedly, you just go full at it, because the people who are going to succeed are the ones who persevere. That's just what it comes down to. And I say this over and over, but my definition of success is not how many sales you get or how many followers you have. It's how many times you fail and keep getting back up and doing the same thing because you love it. So even if you're living out of your car and you've never made one sale in your entire life, you're still an artist, in my opinion. I mean, look at Van Gogh, who made one sale in his entire life to his brother. Would we discount him as an artist? No. He's a phenomenal artist. So I try to tell anybody who's getting into the space or minting their photography, I understand that it's it's scary because the prices, they fluctuate, the volatility. I get that, but none of us as artists came into the space or even into art to make money. We came into it because we love it. It's our passion. So therefore, if you're not making money in the space or you're scared because you won't, don't do it for that. Do it because you want to elevate what your art form is. Do it because you want to elevate it for the future generations. As photographers, we've all been sold our entire careers that exposure is going to pay the bills. And we see in Web3 that exposure actually elevates us to other collectors and sells our work. We're not looking for sponsorships. We're actually able to sell it and carry it to the next ownership, and provenance speaks so loudly in our space. It proves everything about what NFTs really speak of. But what I want to say at the end of the day, everything that comes out of Web3 technology was what happened yesterday, which was we all worked together, we all created a community, And we showed exactly what that community could do if we all worked together. And that's never been seen before from Web 2, from Web 1. We've never seen in history this many artists create this much wealth and then share it and distribute it between each other. It's never been done before. So a year ago, there was 10 photographers in the space. This year, I saw 1,000 people submit their work to my gallery. Next year, there'll be probably 10,000. So the future of this space is growing more and more every single day. And I think when we look at crypto, the idea is not decentralization, it's self-sovereignty. It's creating wealth and creating the idea of owning your own assets and owning your own provenance. And that is the future of the blockchain technology. We love NFTs. Thank you, guys.